Telling someone to learn AI right now is completely useless advice.
Right. It really is.
It is exactly like telling someone in 1995 to learn the internet. The internet was just underlying infrastructure.
Yeah.
And, well, so is artificial intelligence. The real question we need the answer is far more specific. What exactly are we supposed to be learning to do?
Exactly, because the technology itself isn't going to hand you a career. You have to learn how to apply it. Apply it to real problems, I mean.
Welcome to the deep dive. That is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are moving completely past the daily, exhausting hype cycle. Our mission is to explore 6 essential skills. Skills for modern value creation. These are practical, tangible things you can start practicing this weekend.
Yeah, these skills become exponentially more valuable as the technology scales up. We want to give you a highly focused, actionable roadmap today. You really don't need to feel paralyzed by endless information overload.
Let's jump into the first essential skill on our roadmap. It is about running agents and personal models on your machines. We need to clarify the difference between basic prompting and agents. Why is an agent fundamentally different from just typing a question?
Well, writing a prompt is just an isolated, single digital action. You give the system one command, and it gives one answer.
Right.
An agent is a fundamentally different kind of operational system entirely. It actually operates with a very clear, specific end goal. It has specialized tools to manipulate data and get work done. It has strict permissions dictating what it can and cannot touch. It relies on memory to maintain context. It can even review its own work before presenting the final result.
I think a quick analogy really helps visualize this difference clearly. A prompt is basically like hitting a button on a microwave. You press it, and it blindly heats your food for 60 seconds. But an agent is much more like hiring a personal chef.
That is a great way to put it.
A chef knows exactly what kind of ingredients you actually prefer.
Yeah.
They will physically check your fridge before they even start cooking.
Yes, and that proactive thinking is what companies are desperately missing. Most businesses right now are dealing with a totally chaotic mess. They buy dozens of isolated AI tools. None of them communicate properly.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Nobody knows which specific tool handles which specific daily process anymore. The person who organizes all those tools becomes completely irreplaceable. They bring actual functioning order to a chaotic corporate environment.
We saw a brilliant example from a Claude Cowork user recently. They built a highly customized daily briefing agent for their workflow.
Oh, I saw that.
It automatically checks their Slack channels for high-priority messages. It deeply scans their email inbox for anything needing immediate response. It reviews their calendar to pull context for upcoming morning meetings. Then it compiles all of this into one brief before they wake up.
The most incredible detail is how quickly they built the system. That entire setup process took them about 30 minutes to finish. They didn't write complex code to make the system function properly. They just described the workflow using plain conversational English instructions. And the agent figured out how to schedule itself to run daily.
This really highlights the incredible growing value of using local models today. Local models run entirely on your own computer for maximum privacy. You really don't always need the massive, expensive cloud-based models.
Right, some internal documents are just too sensitive to send over the internet. Some projects require strict handling of highly confidential customer data.
Exactly.
Llama is a fantastic tool for running these local models easily. It keeps all your proprietary data locked down on your hardware. It also completely eliminates those constantly accumulating per token processing fees. You basically secure a highly reliable worker running constantly for free.
I've got to admit, I still wrestle with this concept myself. Whenever I build an agent, my instinct is totally overwhelming. I want it to magically handle 10 different workflows on day one. I end up creating this massive, tangled web of complicated instructions.
That is the absolute most common trap for anyone starting out. When you make an agent do everything, the entire system degrades. You can no longer pinpoint where the logic is breaking down. A truly effective agent always starts with one clearly defined task. It runs on a very predictable, boring, and steady daily schedule. You need a highly objective way to measure if it works. Ask yourself if the agent consistently saves you 10 minutes daily. Does it catch tiny formatting errors you would normally miss completely?
So how do you stop an agent from totally going off the rails?
You have to restrict its operational focus from the very beginning. It needs a rigid, unwavering timeline to prove its actual reliability.
Start with one task, run a steady schedule, and measure the results.
Yes. Keeping it narrow is how you build real automation trust.
So you built this incredible invisible worker on your laptop. It produces code or written content at absolute lightning speed. But now you inevitably run into a completely different kind of problem. You have all this output, but nobody's actually looking at it.
Right.
That brings us to our second essential skill for the future. We need to talk about building real distribution, not just posting.
People constantly confuse social media posting with having actual market distribution. Posting is just throwing a message blindly into a crowded void. True distribution is an engineered system for capturing sustained human attention. You have to know precisely where your ideal customers spend their downtime.
Neat. But isn't distribution just corporate jargon for old school marketing?
Yeah.
It feels like we just rebranded advertising to sound more sophisticated.
I completely understand why it feels like a sanitized buzzword today. But historical marketing was usually about interrupting people with a megaphone. Modern distribution is about systematically building deep trust before selling anything.
Ah, I see the distinction.
Recent research from Google and BCG proves this shift incredibly clearly. Changing a modern buying decision requires three overlapping critical elements today. You need captured attention, intense personal relevance, and established baseline trust. A random viral post rarely builds all three of those simultaneously.
The modern creator actually has to manage three distinct operational roles. They have to be a relentless researcher decoding customer psychology daily. They must be a compelling storyteller who keeps the audience hooked. And they have to be a media operator managing their own broadcasting channels.
When digital products become frictionless to build, the fundamental bottleneck shifts. You no longer stress about the technical challenge of building software. You stress entirely about finding a demographic that actually cares about it. We looked at a fascinating case study involving a founder named Andrew.
Yeah, he built a software company currently valued around $10 million. The genius part is that he didn't sell to users directly. He white-labeled his entire product through established digital marketing agencies instead. He essentially built the exact back-end system those agencies desperately needed.
Right, they already had the clients, so he just leveraged their existing trust. He fundamentally understood that his company was actually a distribution business. The software was just the vehicle he used to capture the value.
You cannot wait until your product is polished to start promoting. You have to locate the existing market demand before you write code. Why does distribution matter more now that AI writes code?
AI completely removes the technical friction from the software creation process. Suddenly, the market is flooded with functional apps nobody asked for.
Because building is cheap now. The real bottleneck is finding people who care.
Precisely. Attention is the only truly scarce digital resource left today.
We've spent a lot of time discussing digital screens so far, but AI is quickly bleeding out of our computers into physical reality. Let's take a quick break here, and then we will explore our third skill, sponsor placeholder. All right, welcome back. We are diving into robotics, physical hardware, and global sourcing.
Robotics historically required advanced PhDs and massive corporate research budgets. You needed incredibly expensive custom hardware and decade-long development cycles. That entire paradigm is actively collapsing right now for a few reasons. We now have widespread access to highly capable multimodal AI models.
Multimodal models are models that process both images and plain text together.
Exactly. We are also seeing a massive crash in hardware component costs. We have global research communities publishing open source movement datasets for free. This makes physical robotics incredibly accessible to someone in their garage.
Hugging Face just launched an amazing platform called LeRobot very recently. It provides accessible models and movement datasets for real-world robotics development. They built these tools entirely using PyTorch for the global community. PyTorch is a standard software framework used for building AI systems.
Their ultimate goal is to shatter the historical barrier to entry. They want hobbyists contributing physical movement data to a shared global repository. They actually teamed up with a hardware partner late last year. They released a fully functioning robot arm called the SO100.
It costs about $100 and you build it yourself.
T-Tech silence.
Whoa. Imagine anyone building a functioning robot for $100 in their garage.
It is a genuinely profound shift in everyday human capability. But leaving the software world introduces a completely different challenge. You have to learn how to deal with physical manufacturing supply chains. Communicating with global part suppliers is a very distinct, specialized skill.
You are no longer just pulling code from a GitHub repository. You need to confidently ask a supplier for physical prototype samples. You must verify intricate motor specifications and controller board voltage details. You have to know how to request the original 3D CAD files.
Right, and you must understand their replacement part timelines deeply. You have to negotiate their minimum order quantity before committing capital. Knowing how to extract the right technical answers from suppliers is critical. It utilizes a totally different mental muscle than debugging software code.
Mastering both software logic and physical hardware sourcing creates a massive advantage. What's the hardest part of moving from software to hardware?
It's leaving the safety of code to negotiate with physical manufacturers. You have to learn the specific language of global industrial supply chains.
Learning to talk to suppliers and knowing exactly what questions to ask them.
Yes, because a coding error is free, but a manufacturing error costs thousands.
With robots entering our garages and AI flooding the internet, we have a new problem. We are drowning in an overwhelming, unprecedented sea of digital noise. That makes our fourth essential skill more critical than ever before. We need to master the art of rapid, highly trusted curation.
People often think curation is just dropping links in a weekly newsletter. True curation is rapidly spotting what matters and contextualizing it instantly. You have to ruthlessly filter out the noise for a specific audience. Google recently updated their algorithm to prioritize something called the EEAE framework.
That acronym stands for experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and ultimately trustworthiness. When AI can generate 10,000 articles a minute, trust is everything. Trust becomes the only reliable filter left for human consumption.
A masterful curator builds that trust by offering a distinct perspective. They consistently utilize a very specific, repeatable structure for sharing information. First, they clearly explain the new development they actually saw happen. Second, they explain what the general public assumes this development means. Third, they explain what they actually believe it means on a deeper level. Finally, they give the audience a highly specific action to take next.
This structure violently forces you to develop a genuine point of view. You cannot just blindly forward a generic news link anymore. I like to compare terrible curation to a frantic digital hoarder. A hoarder just frantically piles up endless disconnected junk in a room.
Oh, I like that analogy.
A masterful curator is much more like an elite museum director. They intentionally utilize negative space to highlight one profoundly important artifact.
Maintaining that spotlight requires you to build a personal taste file. You have to systematically document the things that genuinely capture your attention. You save incredibly strong writing hooks you stumble across during research. You document highly unusual or totally unexpected ways people utilize software.
You save actual customer questions because they reveal deep market confusion. The curator's output is strictly limited by the quality of their inputs. How do you stop curation from just becoming an echo chamber?
You have to ruthlessly protect the diversity of your daily information diets. If you consume the same generic feeds, your curation becomes entirely predictable.
By having sharp, specific inputs in your taste file, not just generic news.
Yes, brilliant curation requires pulling inspiration from completely unrelated, unexpected industries.
If you combine the ability to curate ideas with distribution systems, you unlock something amazing. You unlock something incredibly powerful for the modern digital economy. AI essentially allows one single person to execute the entire business loop. That brings us to our fifth skill, becoming a modern builder-distributor.
Historically, a successful technology company required two entirely different personality types. One person sat in the back and wrote the complex code. Another person went out and aggressively sold the product to customers. AI completely collapses that traditional operational divide for us right now.
One single, highly motivated person can execute the entire go-to-market strategy alone. They can build a functional prototype and design a beautiful landing page. They can script a marketing video and message their early adopters directly. They can rapidly iterate the software based on actual market feedback.
This solo operator has a terrifyingly massive edge in the current market. They never have to wait on sluggish handoffs between siloed corporate departments. We saw a great example from an indie hacker developer recently. He built a software service called Flowly in exactly 30 days.
He noted a really fascinating psychological difference in the building process. He said writing code always gives you instant, highly logical feedback.
But launching that product to find real customers feels completely irrational.
I deeply understand why staying in the building phase feels safer. The code compiling process does not judge your personal worth. But putting your creation out into the public market, that is genuinely terrifying.
Overcoming that deep psychological friction is what separates successful builder distributors. The feedback loop is the only thing that refines a mediocre idea. You have to build a tiny prototype and show it to strangers. You watch carefully to see exactly where they get stuck or confused.
You fix the software, you refine the marketing story, and you repeat. Most solo operators only manage to execute half of this necessary loop. They either build quietly in total isolation for 18 months straight, or they talk endlessly on social media without ever shipping a real product.
Exactly.
The true builder-distributor generates momentum by constantly shifting between both modes. What's the biggest trap for a solo builder right now?
It is the overwhelming temptation to avoid the pain of market rejection. They fail to complete the critical feedback cycle that improves the product.
Doing only half the loop, building quietly forever, or talking loudly without shipping?
Yes, isolating yourself from the market guarantees you build the wrong thing.
We have spent almost this entire conversation discussing global digital scale. We talked about AI coding, digital media distribution, and internet leverage. Our final essential skill is the absolute exact opposite of all that. As the supply of digital content approaches infinity, its market value plummets. What becomes truly priceless in an age of artificial abundance? Real life.
AI is actively flooding the digital world with cheap, instantly generated content. Expert-level software consulting is now available from a chatbot at midnight. When digital intelligence becomes an endless commodity, the nature of scarcity changes. Genuine scarcity immediately shifts to deep trust, human belonging, and in-person connection.
Having a real network means something profoundly specific in this new era. It means knowing someone who actually understands your specific professional context deeply. It is someone who answers your frantic text message when a crisis hits. It is someone who personally introduces you to a critical future investor. Those unscalable, entirely human moments completely change the trajectory of your life. It's fascinating that the ultimate AI skill doesn't use a computer at all.
Yes, because seeking community is a deeply ingrained biological human habit. Someone who masters physical community building curates their guest list incredibly carefully. They pick a highly specific topic and a physical format they can sustain. A physical community that actually survives relies entirely on a predictable rhythm.
It requires gathering the same core group around a shared, compelling promise. The emotional safety deepens significantly every single time the group successfully meets. Andrew Young runs a fascinating project called the Shinto Founder Dinner. He has hosted this specific, highly curated dinner series for 2 years.
He invites 24 carefully vetted founders to gather in person every month. The unwavering consistency is the actual secret engine driving the community's success. Those founders start deeply relying on that specific monthly gathering. The repeating rhythm itself becomes the core value proposition for the attendees.
It provides an emotional anchor in a highly chaotic technological landscape. Why do most networking events fail to become communities?
They treat human connection as a highly transactional, disposable, one-night event. People swap business cards and then never speak to each other again.
They lack consistency. A real community relies on a predictable, repeating rhythm.
Yes, you have to continually invest time to transform strangers into allies.
We have covered an incredibly massive amount of conceptual ground today. Let's synthesize all these diverse ideas into a clear framework for you.
Looking at a list of 6 complex skills can trigger immediate paralysis. It makes you feel like you must master everything simultaneously to survive. Telling someone to simply learn AI is terribly unhelpful advice today. The ultimate goal is strategically combining automation tools, personal taste, and distribution.
You absolutely do not need to master all 6 of these skills tomorrow. You should pick a starting point based entirely on your existing natural strengths. If you naturally love building systems, start tinkering with agents and local models. If you enjoy understanding human psychology, focus intensely on building digital distribution.
Right, and if you prefer tactile, hands-on engineering, try building that $100 robot arm. If you constantly find yourself explaining complex news, curation is your clear path. If you love solitary side projects, embrace the complete builder-distributor feedback loop.
If you thrive on bringing fascinating people together, start hosting a monthly dinner. Choosing one specific direction matters infinitely more than agonizing over the perfect choice. You cannot absorb this entire technological shift in a single weekend.
The tools will keep evolving rapidly, but these core human skills remain permanent.
I really want you to pick just one of these 6 specific skills. Pick the single path that aligns most closely with your natural curiosity. Execute the very first tiny step for it this exact weekend. Then genuinely check in with yourself after a few days have passed. Taking that small action is the real beginning of your deep dive.
As artificial intelligence inevitably takes over the mechanical execution of our daily ideas, what if the most valuable human skill in the next decade is simply having better taste?
Think back to how utterly confusing the world felt back in 1995. The internet was this massive, entirely abstract landscape, full of chaotic noise. Nobody actually knew what they were supposed to be doing with it yet. We're living inside that exact same historical window right now. Don't just vaguely learn how to use artificial intelligence. Learn how to leverage it to create undeniable value.